Welcome. So today we're going to dive into a pretty fascinating idea, one that might just change how you think about, well, thinking. It's the concept that your mind isn't actually a thing you have, but an activity that you do. And to get us started, I want you to consider one simple question about that very activity. Seriously, think about it for a second. Does your mind ever just stop? Or is it constantly wandering, jumping from one thought to the next, like a restless vagabond that never seems to be at peace? If that sounds familiar, then you've already felt the constant motion that we're here to explore today. So yeah, this idea of the mind as a vagabond, always on the move, it's a really powerful image because it gets right to the heart of a pretty radical idea.
And here's the big reframe. Let's stop calling it a mind and start calling it minding. See the difference? It's a verb. It's a process. Your mind isn't a substance like your brain is. It's the activity of your consciousness moving from one thought to another. And here's the kicker. It only exists when it's in motion.
A perfect way to get your head around this is to think about walking. Walking is a process, right? When you stop walking, the activity of walking is gone. It just ceases. But your legs, the potential to walk, they're still there. Well, in this analogy, your legs are like your pure consciousness, that fundamental part of you that's just aware. The walking part? That's the minding. It's a function, not a substance.
Okay, so if the mind is just a process of movement, what happens when we stop it? Well, this is where we find the real secret to finding that inner center. It's all about achieving total stillness.
Get this, when you actually manage to halt the mind's movement, it essentially dies. It's just gone, because its very life is movement. And trust me, it's gonna fight you. It'll try to push you anywhere, make you think about anything, just to keep going. But if you can hold your ground, what's left behind is just pure, unfiltered consciousness. This is so important. The goal of concentration isn't to think harder about something. No, it's the total opposite. The goal is to starve the mind. By fixing your awareness on one single point, you deny it the fuel it needs to jump from thought to thought. And without that movement, the whole process of minding just fizzles out.
All right, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great in theory, but how in the world do you actually do it? Well, the cool thing is the approach is tailored to your personality. There are two distinct paths that lead to the very same center.
So the paths are basically designed for introverts and extroverts. If you're someone who is comfortable in your own inner world, you're going to focus inward, with your eyes closed on an imagined object. But if you find it really difficult to go in, if your mind is always drawn to the outside world, then you'll use a real object, like a dot on a wall, and you'll do it with your eyes open.
Let's look at path 1, for the introverts. You start by imagining your 5 senses as 5 beautiful, vibrant colors filling up all of space. Then, you just let those colors flow inward, meeting at a single point inside you, say at your navel. The key is just to concentrate on that meeting point without analyzing it. This is a perfect method for anyone with a strong visual imagination, maybe a painter's eye.
And for the extroverts, the method is way more direct. You literally just make a small dot on a wall and stare at it. But the instruction here is very specific, and it's really, really important. You have to keep your eyes open, totally fixed on that point, and you cannot blink. We're about to find out exactly why that is so critical. Okay, now we get to the most crucial instruction. For both of these methods, the goal is exactly the same. You concentrate on your chosen point, whether it's internal or external, until it simply disappears. So here's why not blinking is such a big deal for that external method. Every single time you blink, you're creating a micro pause, a tiny little gap where your concentration breaks. And that little gap is all the mind needs to start wandering again. It's like an open door for a thought to sneak in. So to truly stop the mind, your focus has to be absolutely 100% unbroken. You know, this whole idea of unwavering, non-blinking focus is captured so well in a famous Zen story about the master Bodhidharma. As the story goes, Bodhidharma was so determined to maintain his concentration that he got frustrated with blinking and, well, he tore off his own eyelids. I know, it's intense. But where they fell to the ground, the very first tea plant sprouted. And the mountain was called Ta, which is where we get the name tea. That's why tea is still considered sacred in Zen, something that promotes wakefulness. It's really just a powerful metaphor for absolute commitment to awareness. Okay, let's back up a second. An imaginary point disappearing, that kind of makes sense. But how can a real physical dot on a wall just vanish? That seems to defy logic, right? Well, here's the answer.
The dot on the wall doesn't actually go anywhere. What disappears is the connection between you and the dot. It's like a mental bridge just dissolves.
So let's redefine the mind one more time using this new metaphor. Your mind is the bridge that allows your consciousness to perceive and interact with the outside world. And it's constantly running back and forth across that bridge, between you and whatever you're paying attention to.
So when you achieve that total concentration, the mind stops moving. The bridge collapses, and even with your eyes wide open, the very mechanism that interprets the world is no longer active. The connection is severed. The point is still there, but you can no longer perceive it.
So what happens in that moment when the point dissolves and there's nowhere left for your consciousness to go? This is where you find the final outcome, the bliss of just being.
With no internal or external object to focus on, your awareness has nowhere left to go but inward. It gets thrown back onto its own source. And for the first time, you are not conscious of something, you are simply conscious. That is what it means to find your center.
And the feeling that comes from this state is one of just profound connection. You realize you're not some stranger in the universe, not an outsider looking in. You're an insider. You fundamentally belong to existence itself. That feeling of separation just dissolves.
And this brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. Bliss isn't some prize you win or a destination you finally arrive at. It's your default setting. It is the natural state of your being, and it's always there, just waiting to be uncovered once the restless activity of the mind finally stops. So, that leaves us with one final thought to reflect on. In a world that is constantly telling us to do more, achieve more, and think more, what if the real secret to peace and joy lies in the complete opposite? What if it's found not in movement, but in perfect, absolute stillness? Thanks for joining me for this explainer.